The past few years have accelerated the evolution of workplace and how work works. The markets are more competitive and they are all online, which makes it a huge challenge from an employer branding perspective and retaining consistent efforts being put in. The need for employer branding has only got enhanced in the last 2 or 3 years. Now, strategic employer branding is all about clarifying and communicating your EVP, employer value proposition, to your internal and external audiences. It's not about random activities, but actually a strategic cross-functional entity. From the leadership group to marketing, HR, and tech teams, how do we simplify this and create great employer branding policies is what we will talk about today with Arora, who is a seasoned communications professional with over 18 years of rich experience spanning across marketing and HR in providing end-to-end content strategy, business and talent branding solutions, PR, social media, industry awards, community programs, inclusion and diversity. Her current role is that of leading the branding and communications effort at CDK Global India. She has been associated with Deloitte, Coforge, NIIT Tech and Value Labs in the past roles. She is a certified employer brand leader from Employer Branding College, Australia, and also certified in Digital Marketing and Analytics from ISB, Hyderabad. Nobody better than her could do justice to the series Employer Branding, the New Talent Game. This, ladies and gentlemen, is a 5-episode series which covers employer branding from 5 different perspectives. In this first episode, we talk about the evolution of employer branding. So, thank you, Rolly, for joining us today. We're really glad to have you speak on employer branding. And this is a 5-part series, so we're obviously going to ask you a lot of questions, breaking down employer branding for what it is essentially, right? So starting off, talking about the evolution aspect, right? How has employer branding evolved over the years and why has it become a core focus area for employers now?
Thank you, Roshan. What an amazing question to start the conversation today. And we are really thinking about going back to the times when, bad bosses literally used to exist. So I'm going to break my answer into 3 parts for the sake of our conversation today. First is we will try to go back in times where, the employer used to call the shots. The era of boss is always right used to exist and the job security is all that mattered. And no one really thought or bothered about how an employee feels at the workplace. Forget about did they enjoy coming into work and felt supported, recognized, taken care of, etc. While from the employer side, only customer was the king and the corporate brand was all that mattered, as that brought in revenues and there wasn't so much of effort being put in the direction of building an employer brand, obviously. So if we move ahead a little in times, coming to the era of those cheeky Hari Sadhu ads by Naukri.com that took the viral marketing world by storm. And the leading job portal, Naukri in India, what they did was they personified the bad bosses and toxic workplaces that came to the fore, and it aptly voiced out the emotions of an emerging generation of employees who would not tolerate such environments, and they started speaking their minds openly. And also, I think the employees felt supported as there was a lot of improving education levels. There was influx of foreign investments in India, and due to the rising, education and English speaking levels, there was a lot of job opportunities available, and they had a lot of opportunities to explore. So now the employees slowly started emerging as an important stakeholder in the game with a mind and choice of their own. And fast forward to now, the third part, what I'm speaking about is now where there's a war for talent and attracting good hires has really become the need of the hour. Hence, employer branding definitely has emerged as a focus area for organizations, both big and small, as a means to attract, engage, and retain talent to help them serve their business and customer needs and be perceived as a reputed brand and employer of choice.
True, very well said. So, from what you just mentioned, the evolution has been so huge. There's a mindset change, the way people look at employers and employees. There's been a lot of change. So you've very aptly put that across. Now, along with that, Rolly, there's also this give and get concept of employer branding, right? How do you define it in current times?
That's again a very interesting question, Roshan. And I would like to compare the game of employer branding as we have branded our conversation today.
Right.
It is something very similar to matchmaking, which is successful only when the expectations and aspirations of both the employee and the organization is met, which
True.
results in a successful marriage of sorts, if I can say, leading to long stints and tenure with the organization. So for an org, the EVP, as we call employee value proposition, is right. That is
Right.
something, a list of tangible and intangible benefits that an organization offers to a candidate to sign on the dotted line, while the future employee brings the promise of loyalty, hard work, and commitment while being the brand advocate of the organization where they're working. I think it's really important that in current times, as the demand for talent has really overtaken the supply of good candidates, especially for tech in India, as we know. So I think the focus has shifted more on providing a plethora of benefits to make it an attractive value proposition for the candidates to have them stay and have a fulfilling career while being committed to the relationship, as we typically call it.
Wow, amazing. So there is a balance of sorts that's happening. Right.
Absolutely. So give and get concept is really put into practice here.
Interesting. So keeping the give and get concept in mind, now when you are creating your employee branding policies, right? Now, do you address a cohort or do you address it individually? And is it possible to do that?
Yeah, that's again some, I would say, a challenge as well as an opportunity, because, as we say, right, no one size fits all. And this also holds true, especially in the era of employer branding when we are dealing with so many stakeholders, right, from employees to leaders to different, industry partners that we work with. So while we definitely induct the new hires at the time of onboarding in line with the social media policies and other organization policies to ensure that they are aware of the objective and the focus that we are trying to drive, because as we know, employer branding is still an evolving field. But we also do take media sensitization sessions for leaders who are going to be active influencers of the brand and be the advocates and champions along with championing the brand program across the organization. So I think this consists of a series of things like elevator pitches, brand articulation, storytelling, collaterals to arm them with the needed resources so that they know whom to talk to in what level of detail and how to position the company in front of the target audience. So this also includes obviously the talent acquisition teams, the hiring managers, the leaders, and also because they are the first level of point of contact when they talk to candidate for starting a hiring conversation, right? So it's very important to keep evolving the strategy and also doing the messaging periodically to ensure that we stay ahead of the curve.
Right. Okay. So would I be right in saying that addressing the cohort would be the right way of going ahead, or rather covering everybody under an umbrella?
I think at the time of induction, definitely cohorts need to be covered as per the new hire batches. But at the same time, for customizing the messaging and tweaking as per the levels and the role that they are going to play in the brand championship journey, I think time to time, whenever there is an org change or there's a branding change, the right messaging has to be percolated across the organization.
Right, right. Now, of course, when these policies come into play, there's a lot of stakeholder involvement. A lot of people are involved. There's time taken to come up with such policies. Now, when these are being done, how much of weightage should be given to DEI? That's, diversity, equity, and inclusion in such policies. What's your take on that?
Well, I don't think these days any conversation is complete without a reference to diversity, equity, and inclusion, because that has typically become the boardroom agenda these days. And when we talk about diversity, it's not only about gender, right? There are so
Right.
many aspects of diversity across the spectrum that we need to look at, right? From gender, age, region, religion, to the the kind of generation that they belong to, and from which area of the country they come from. So to showcase and be an authentic, inclusive culture, it's very important then in the era of employer branding, right? How we inculcate the champions who also represent these various dialects and various set of people who really are going to connect to these influencers as champions. So when we build the employer branding mix, it's very important to include all such set of champions across the spectrum of the organization so that they can speak and story tell the kind of experiences they are having in the organization, and also they have a mindset which really understands what the future generations want, or what are the prospective candidates looking forward to get in an organization, right? So it's very important that we involve DEI across the spectrum. And also, to give you an example, when we hire people, right, if we look at broadly, I think the set of candidates we look at mostly into the technology, diversity, and campus, to give you a broad mix, right? So we can include champions, and we do the targeted messaging across to all these groups to make a connect and strike a chord. So it is, I can say, hire to retire. Even at an alumni phase, we have brand champions who help in rehire programs, or be the brand advocates even after they have left. Or sometimes they are a very strong source of referrals because they understand the company culture, having been a part of the journey and the success of the organization.
Right, definitely. Very well answered, Rolly. Now, taking on from there, and the last question of this section is, what, according to you, should be the top 3 areas that the custodians should work in for the year 2023?
Well, my top 3 areas that has really worked in my tenure, and also I think they are equally applicable to the employer branding game that we are trying to achieve success with, right? I would summarize them as 3 C's basically. This is nothing but creativity, because I think how you position a company, as well as how you put the messaging out in the market, to the point of what channels you use, what champions you build in, and what kind of story formats you use for authentically building and culture showcasing. I think creativity is definitely needed, because our target audience needs are constantly evolving, and their attention spans are very limited. So we have to continuously reinvent our messaging strategies to be creative. Second is obviously consistency, because I think when it comes to employer branding, we cannot play a test match saying by the year end, we'll achieve these KRAs and these many people hired and job done. I think consistently we have to show the results by playing a 2020 or a one day, because we need to score runs daily. And I think it says out of sight, out of mind. So basically, we really need to consistently put out the messaging across creatively. Third, and last but not the least, is collaboration, because you really need to know the awesomeness that's happening in the organization by keeping your arms and legs across the organization, having your eyes and ears open to understand wherever there is something great going on internally, how you package, showcase, and story tell the branding outside to the market. So I think creativity, consistency, and collaboration, if we keep these in mind, I think we can really put out a very strong strategy, and outcome and impact can be done.
True, absolutely. Very well said. And I think those 3 points are sustainable points that people can work on for the year 2023. Right? Yes. So, Rolly, thank you so much for sharing your inputs. I think great points you've made on how the evolution has happened. You gave a lot of clarity on the give and get concept. Also, the policy forming, whether it should be a cohort or whether it should be at an individual level. The diversity, equity, and inclusion part, and of course the top areas that we're looking at. So that was really insightful, Rolly. Thank you so much for sharing your insights.
Thank you, Roshan. Enjoyed the conversation.